Hi, everybody. Sorry to interrupt your conversation. In the interest of time, we were just given the green light to go ahead, and others can join us as soon as they're ready. So my name is Dania Versailles. I am one of the directors of clinical services at the Ottawa branch of the Canadian Mental Health Association here. And welcome back to the colloque sur la santé mentale des communautés noires, surmonter les obstacles, combler les lacunes. Welcome back to the mental health of Black communities, overcoming obstacles, bridging the gaps conference. So you're in session 9, and help me to welcome Dr. Régine Debrosse, who will talk to us about her project, Connecting with COVID-19, Black youth experiences with pandemic challenges, post-secondary transitions, and mental health. Okay.
So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming back from lunch. I know that has been hard. It was really almost like a party up there. But I appreciate everyone being here. Just here. Right. Okay. So as I was so kindly introduced, my name is Dania Versailles. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Social Work at McGill University. Within my training, for a little bit of background, my training is in psychology. Today, I will share about a project that I've been conducting actually in collaboration with some people who are in the room today. Shout out to Professor Alicia Bodzwinkai and Cindy David, my wonderful colleagues on this project. And so, full disclosure, it's rare that I'm in this situation, but you're getting the data almost like fresh out of the oven. So this means that I'm really excited to present it to you. It also means that your question and your engagement with it will mean a lot in terms of the next steps that we'll take for this project and connected follow-ups. It also means that I might not have thought about all your questions, anticipated everything, and people to answer all your questions, but I'll do my best. So let's jump in. So conducting COVID-19, Black youth experiences with pandemic challenges, post-secondary transitions, and mental health. The place where I wanted to start. The place where I wanted to start this talk today is actually with data from the 2020 census in Canada, which revealed something for my area of study is actually very powerful illustration of a common phenomenon for Black youth in Canada. And this is that in Canada, 94% of Black youths aspire to obtain university degrees, compared to only 82% of their non-Black youths, according to census data. And yet, only 60% believe that this is attainable to meet this goal, compared to 79% of their non-Black youths. So this data is really, really powerful to me because a lot of my work is focused on experiences of young people of color, particularly Black youth, in Canada and also in the US. And when seeing data like this one, of course, I think this room will understand that the messages that Black youth receive have a lot to do with what they might believe is attainable for them. So, in terms of narratives on Black youth, I don't want to overly, go into this, but I think it's important to put a little bit of context about the way in which we talk about Black youth and how basically we often talk about them saying that they're at risk without even often saying what they're at risk of, right? We often just say they're at-risk youth, just sending a message that we have low expectations for them, ignoring the resilience that they also demonstrate, as a lot of analysis on the other side of the border has demonstrated, where sometimes youth are all similarly at risk for certain things, but for Black youth and certain other groups that tend to be more stigmatized, like Indigenous youth, youth yes, and community, for example, but particularly Black youth will be put in that category that other youth don't get put in, and all the positive strengths, all their resilience is often ignored. They're also presented as very dangerous. So, for example, there's this very powerful study from one of my colleagues inside in social psychology, God, who demonstrated that people evaluate Black or as less childlike as other people and are more responsible for that. So, of course, all kids, make up sometimes. All kids make mistakes. Kids are trying to learn and are still in the process of being socialized. But for some reason, Black boys, but also Black girls and other Black kids don't get forgiven as much for the mistakes that they make. And they don't get the chance to just be carefree youth. And they're disciplined a lot, particularly in the school system as a consequence. Black youth also sometimes are simply made invisible in the sense that their racial, ethnic experiences are largely ignored. So I'm talking and thinking a lot about color-based programs where differences are downplayed and it's, they're discussed in a way where everything that might happen to them might come from their own individual experiences or the experiences of their family, and there might not be anything systemic. I think we've heard a lot of discourses that have been emphasizing that. And then finally, Black youth are often presented as a monolith. So even for people who are talking about Black youth, thinking about Black youth, trying to support Black youth, there's this idea that it's a homogeneous group and often intersectional, more complex experiences get pushed at the margin, and this idea that there's an essence to being Black, which is at the root of racism, right? That the idea there's an essence to being Black, that it's in our genes to be in one way or another, comes from the discourse that build Blackness as a race, as something that was biologically distinct than other groups, right? So this idea that there's an essence to Blackness rather than seeing the broad variety of Black experiences, even though they have a lot of, common cultural and histories that shape, how Black folks do things and view things, this idea that Black youth are a monolith is also hurtful. And as a result, of these types of narratives, Black youth can internalize a lot of messages in their sense of self and their identity. And this is the focus of a lot of my work. And so as part of my previous work, I worked a lot on this concept that I call ideal alignment. It's a concept that examines basically what happens when, how do you, particularly youth of color, and in this case Black youth, perceive that their racial or ethnic identity aligns with their ideal future identity that they want for themselves. And this comes from this fact that receiving all those messages over and over and over sometimes makes them feel like they have to choose between, for example, being Black and certain higher ambitions and aspirations that they have for themselves. And to give you a couple of examples, in a previous community study with youth of color, I found that the youth of color who perceived a higher sense of alignment between their racial or ethnic identity and their ideal future identity tended to report more engagement towards their aspiration, as well as more engagement towards school.